Did you notice the NFL player who's saving his team's season again? So, what does that look like? And what makes him such a cheat code? Since landing in Baltimore as a first-round pick back in 2022, Kyle Hamilton has been one of the most versatile, valuable defenders in the NFL. Few guys are asked to play more roles for their teams than Hamilton, who's lined up all over the field throughout his young career. But the ability to move him around has also made him something of a fixer for whatever ails the Ravens during a given season. When Baltimore has a problem, they turn to Hamilton, their Winston Wolf and shoulder pads. So, what does this look like? During the first half of the 2024 season, the Ravens were among the worst defenses in football at defending the deep part of the field. From weeks 1 through 10, Baltimore allowed the highest explosive pass rate in the NFL and gave up a league-leading 47 completions of 20-plus yards. Following a shootout win over the Bengals, in which Joe Burrow threw for 428 yards and 4 touchdowns, the Ravens decided to make a tweak to their defensive personnel. Instead of having Hamilton line up in the nickel and in the box like he had on the majority of snaps to that point in the year, Baltimore's defensive staff moved Hamilton back to a more traditional safety role. In the Ravens' Week 11 win over the Steelers, Hamilton played 42 snaps at safety, 28 more than in any single game to that point in the year. The impact was undeniable. After surrendering the most explosive passes in the NFL over their first 10 games, Baltimore allowed the fewest over their final 7, while leading the league in pass defense success rate. To start the 2025 season, the Ravens continued to use Hamilton mostly as a deep safety, but a combination of injuries and inconsistent play from their supporting cast yet again had the defense playing at a below-average level. Through 4 games, the Ravens ranked bottom 10 in both passing success rate and EPA per dropback, as coordinator Zach Orr's group once again struggled to find their footing. It was time to call in the Wolf again. When Hamilton returned to the lineup following a 1-week injury, his deployment looked drastically different than it had up to that point in the season. Rather than lining up primarily at safety, Hamilton had once again almost exclusively moved to a role playing nickel and dime closer to the line of scrimmage. The tweak was the final step in a series of personnel moves for Baltimore's defense. A few days before playing the Rams, Baltimore had made a seemingly modest move to trade edge rusher Odafe Owe to the Chargers for safety Alohi Gilman. Last spring, the Ravens used a first-round pick on safety Malachi Starks, in part to give them more flexibility to move Hamilton around the defense. But when fellow safety Ardarius Washington tore his Achilles a month later, the Ravens were forced to lock Hamilton into a role roaming the deep part of the field. But with Gilman in the fold, the Ravens were free to move Hamilton back to his natural home at nickel and transform their defense yet again in the process. So, what makes Kyle Hamilton such a cheat code? Hamilton is a more than capable safety, as evidenced by his work during the 2024 season. But sticking a player with that skill set in the deep part of the field feels like a missed opportunity. It's like using a Porsche 911 to schlep your kids back and forth to school before sticking it in a garage. It gets the job done, but come on. At 6'4", 220 pounds, Hamilton is a unique creature among NFL defenders. His combination of length, strength, and outlandish football smarts make him well suited for wrecking shop in a bunch of different ways when he's being used closer to the ball. Since moving back to the nickel, we've seen every facet of Hamilton's game on full display. He's made game-swinging plays as a blitzer, either on his own or as a piece of a design stunt or pressure. He's done damage flying off the edge in the run game, and he continues to be an excellent coverage player, even as his responsibilities differ out of the slot. But what's so remarkable about Hamilton's move back to the nickel is that the impact goes far beyond his own individual play. Before trading for Gilman, it would have been easy to argue that outside cornerback, where Baltimore was shuffling between veteran additions Jair Alexander and Jadobe Awuzie, was the Ravens' most pressing need. So then why trade for a safety? Because Kyle Hamilton makes your weaknesses a little less specific and a little less concerning. With Hamilton's ability to solidify the nickel, the Ravens have been able to move former slot corner Marlon Humphrey to a full-time role on the outside. One trade for a safety allowed Baltimore to fortify 3 spots in their nickel defense because of Hamilton's ability to play and thrive in multiple positions within their scheme. Just a few games into this new configuration, Baltimore's defense is posting an above-average success rate and EPA per dropback, with no glaring holes remaining in their secondary. For the second year in a row, the Ravens defense has used Hamilton as the key solution to its central problem and altered the trajectory of that unit as we head toward the home stretch of the season.